Content warning. Today's episode of Pop Culture covers topics that may be disturbing for some viewers or listeners. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. Hello, my lovely hummingbirds, and welcome back to another episode of Makeup and Motivation here on Pop Culture with your lovely host, Monroe. Happy Halloween, everyone. I hope you are having a beautiful Samhain. If you celebrate, I hope you're having a beautiful Halloween. If you're making your ofrendas to calling your loved ones over this weekend, I hope it goes wonderful and well and beautiful, and that you receive all the answers you were meant to in this season. This is not today's makeup look. Hi, I'm Beetlejuice. We are actually doing none other than Coraline. Very simple, very cutesy, very something quick that you can do in a jam, especially if you're going to those last minute Halloween parties. But before we begin with everything going on in the world of popular culture, please join me now for a moment of silence for the lives that we have lost, for all our loved ones that have passed in recent times, and all those that we are calling in over this weekend. Join me now in this moment of silence. Thank you all for joining me in that moment of silence. I greatly appreciate it, my lovely hummingbirds. Enjoyed today's episode. I hope it helps, and I hope you have a very happy, healthy, and joyous Halloween weekend. I love y'all. Now, the makeup look. Hello, my lovely hummingbirds. How's it going, everyone? What do we think about the makeup look? So, it's been a whole day since I initially put this look on, but she's holding up pretty nicely, if I do say so myself. Now, for today's episode, we will be covering the faultiness of miscommunication, specifically pertaining to the family unit. But before we begin into all of that, let us get into everything that has been going on in the world of movies, media, music, entertainment, and popular culture as a whole. So, it feels like every time as the days go on, since the arrest of Sean P. Diddy Combs and everything that has been coming out as far as allegations and what have you of himself, his associates, and all of that. I mentioned last episode the 62-page new case that was placed against him. So this one is not particularly pertaining to that situation, but like I said, it just feels like it's another thing coming out, another celeb. So Lil Durk was arrested last week. Sorry, I can't. I looked crazy when I heard the revving, because when it comes to like the spiritual section of this channel, as far as a grain of salt, loud revving usually means confirmation or you're right on the money, and like, universe, that was that time for that. Anywho, Lil Durk was arrested here in Chicago last week, according to Chicago Media Takeout, on the charges of murder for hire. And people are not, the general consensus was people were not surprised per se, just because of the music that he was putting out. And the general consensus was he got too cocky, and it was bound to catch up to him eventually. Now, the reason why I'm saying that so much is coming out since Diddy is because I feel like for a really long time, Diddy was Hollywood's worst kept secret. Like, everyone, to some capacity, knew what was going on. Not when it comes to the assault allegations or anything like that, right? Hopefully not. But to some degree, everyone knew that he kept pushing those boundaries and kept crossing those lines. Two creators that recently crossed those lines were D-Petty and Whole Wheat Pete. They've recently faced some massive backlash. So if you guys don't know who those two people are, they are influencers. Yes, they are influencers. They are on TikTok, but they are also really big names within the cosplay community. And while the allegations that have come out in recent days since, so basically what happened, D-Petty, yes, his handle is D-Petty, like P. Diddy, but yeah. Anyway, him and Whole Wheat Pete went to TsunemiCon, and for those of you that have been to conventions, this is like the most normal thing you can do at a con, which is cosplaying. It is the act of portraying a fictional character of your liking and or personal creation throughout the weekend, right? Portraying them, dressing up as them, doing the makeup, being in character, all of it. And they were in attendance, and not only did D-Petty put on a mask where it was in the likeness of P. Diddy. First off, that's blackface, but anyway. Secondly, Whole Wheat Pete dressed up as a young Justin Bieber. If you guys have not been caught up, basically there was a video circulating when everything started coming out about Sean Combs that portrayed a 15-year-old Justin Bieber when he was basically signed off to him for 48 hours or some shit like that. And they're portraying these two individuals and making quote-unquote content where not only are they like, is D-Petty throwing money at Whole Wheat Pete, but they like perform this weird skit, and I watched it and I was like, I will never get that minute out of my life again. I'll never get that minute back in my life again. But it's really graphic. It's seen as super insensitive, and other creators that have collaborated with them have at present come out and said things, including if you follow Arnie or Danny, they've been, well, I haven't seen anything from Arnie, but I did see Danny's like, not apology, but basically saying like he is not associated with him and he has his reasons and all of it. Very well spoken video. Other creators are also coming out and saying very similar things. Sorry, I was about to knock over the camera. Saying very similar things about the take of something that should not be a joke made into a joke. Like, yes, dark humor exists, but there is a fine fucking line when it comes to it, and just the disappointment and things like that. Other creators have come out and said that, like, that's bullshit, and none of us should buy it, just because to some extent all of these people knew and still chose to actively work with him. It hasn't been the first allegations against Whole Wheat Pete. And this other creator, and I cannot for the life of me remember his name, but he's so sweet. And he went on to explain the, I don't want to say caste system in the cosplay community, but definitely the cliques that happen, the ostracizing of other creators if they go against bigger creators, and the polarization that can happen, and for all those that are like really trying to make a name for themselves in the cosplay community or trying to build something, going against someone that is like quote unquote super popular within the community or has some type of sway is not really seen as something ideal to do, right? Which like seems like coercion to me, but it was done in very bad taste. And I don't think we've seen the end of this. I mean, granted, there were other creators that stated that, like, unfortunately for the cosplay community, they kind of just let things slide after a while. Hopefully not, but we shall see. In other SA news, so I don't know why I don't remember this. I really don't. But the Abercrombie & Fitch CEO, Michael Jeffries, or the ex-CEO, was recently indicted for the acts of sex trafficking along with 2 of his accomplices, his partner Matthew Smith, and their recruiter James Jacobson. And they're also in New York. And one of the things that like I was reading as I was going through everything that had to do with that, not only is there so much coming out about so many big names, but also the very big, like, I don't know, common factor to me so far seems to be assault, sex trafficking, things of that nature. It's all very sickening. But they were basically indicted in charges for things that happened between the period of 2008 and 2015. And the grain of salt in me, the grain of salt aspect of the channel, I'm just like, And this is happening when Pluto is exiting. Okay, I'm gonna stop. But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. And then, like, I found out about this today. Did not know it was a thing. So, Rosanna Pansino, better known as Nerdy Nummies. If you haven't watched her bake cakes, you should. But anyway, her going against Mr. Beast and, like, that, I can't really say it's beef, but she has a degree in, like, investigative journalism. And she has since, if I'm not mistaken, it all started with messages from Mr. Beast's staff that was in like a group chat for the work group, and it's escalated to the point where, like, this one creator said there was evidence of child porn as well. Yes, if change the K to appeal. As well as cannibalism, which I was just like, I'm sorry, what? And oh my god, I think I did say it here on Pop Culture before, how it was that thing about the sausages made out of human flesh, or like leftover flesh or blood or some shit, where you could buy it even from like fucking celebrities. Like, it was the weirdest shit ever. And that cannot have been a fever dream. Like, I swear I saw that somewhere. Anyway, yeah, Nerdy Nummies is coming for that ass from Mr. Beast, from finding mold in his Lunchleys, which is Mr. Beast's version of Lunchables, to issues with his mistreatment of staff, to things that have been confided to her by previous members of his staff, or even people that were in that, like, Squid Games competition thing that he did. Like, so much shit is coming out. Anyway, in none of that, going into political news, so y'all remember how Nicky Jam went up there and embarrassed himself as Trump introduced him as the hottest girl. So, here's a few things, right? First off, I have as much issue with Nicky Jam having supported him initially and the reasoning that he gave for supporting Trump. Ooh, it makes me feel all types of just what the fuck, as much as the whole like conservative goth thing that's been trending on TikTok, because people were like, y'all, do you realize that goths are basically an anti-corporate, anti-government, anti-the society movement? Like, that's a bone to pick for a different day. But he went up there and was like, oh my god, this is the best choice for this country and all this shit. And I'm just like, there's no way no one in your team, right, was like, he did say he was gonna grab girls by the vagine. He did hang out with Jeffrey Epstein multiple times. He did dog pretty much every single one of his fucking co-hosts when he was doing, oh my god, I was gonna say Shark Tank, whatever the fuck it was called. You know, he has said a slew of racist ideas and arguments and motions for laws to be enacted. Let's not forget what he said about the wall. Like, there has been a plethora of things this man has said. And granted, I am kind of glad that he like he put the last nail in his own coffin with the statements that a comedian that came out in a MAGA rally when he was making fun of Puerto Rico. And like, I have seen a bunch of people, a bunch of fucking Latinos that are like, oh my god, Trump is the best choice. And I'm like, but he's not though. Granted, we don't like the other one either, but out of the two, we're in a lesser of two evil situation again, y'all, and I can't stand it. But not the hot Cheeto. Anyway, so Nicky Jam stated on his IG basically saying like, oh, well, at the time I thought he was the best choice for the economy, and there's so many immigrant families, so many Latino families that are struggling because of the state of the economy. And while he's not wrong, MAGA does not, they don't like our people. And granted, there are people that have supported Trump that are like, you know, not racist. But for the grand majority, like, they think the borders should be closed. They think that, you know, immigrants should all go back to wherever the fuck they came from. That we speak only English in America, which, like, we are the United States of America. We are not America, because we are in the continent of the Americas. But I digress. Trump, The Apprentice, that's what it was fucking called. It was bothering me the whole time. Anyway, so he basically backtracked on his endorsement and said, you know, the way that he spoke about Puerto Rico was super disheartening because, like, that's his country. And I'm just like, and you were out here pushing for a man that wants to make Puerto Rico the 51st state of the country? Like, this man has no respect for the Latino community. So ever since that, and Bad Bunny really was like one of the first that pushed not the envelope, but really spoke his stance of, you know, who he's voting for, why people should vote for Kamala, and gave a very, very moving speech. And then all the Latino artists were like, alright, bet. And if you haven't seen the fucking trending sound on TikTok about Kamala out there partying with Beyonce and everybody doing a little dance to it, I'm like, I can't stand y'all. The amount of songs that have come up from the bullshit that this man has spewed on a fucking podium at these rallies is so iconic, and I can't stand it. Like, yeah, I'm a little sleepy and I am recording pretty freaking late at night. Anyway, that being said, we are officially a week out. Happy spooky season. It is very spooky indeed, considering the state of the world. Please go vote. Please, please, please. If you love the women in your life, please go vote. If you guys don't know who Nikita Dump Truck is, you definitely need to go check out her platforms. She is very politically informed, very politically involved. If I'm not mistaken, she is a pre-law or in-law. And she has a very astute and, like, super cute way of, like, really breaking shit down to where it is easy to understand and palpable. And if you're sitting there and you're like, I just don't get everything that's going on, go watch her videos. She really goes into a really nice detail of explaining everything and just how the state of our fucking politics are right now. But go out, go vote, make your voice fucking heard, because I cannot do 4 more years of Trump. I can't, my lovely hummingbirds. I am stressed. Anyway, that aside, so in completely unrelated news to all of that, congratulations to both Ruth Connell and Rob Benedict. I always want to change Rob's names. What am I saying? I always want to change Rob's names. Instead of saying Rob Benedict, I always want to say Benedict Rob. But he is not Benedict Cumberbatch. There's already one of those. No, so Rob Benedict, who portrays Chuck or God in the show Supernatural, is marrying Ruth Connell. Toto Batty, who portrays Rowena, who is like one of like the oldest witches to have ever lived. And I'm like, oh, that is so fitting that they announce it around spooky season. I'm so happy for them. In other engagement news, so baby girl Halsey and baby boy Evan Jogia are engaged, and I'm so happy for them. Not only do we get to bask in the glory of Halsey's new album, which is called The Great Impersonator, and also, gosh, what are words? Enjoy all of like the super cool Instagram posts that she did of it. Sorry, Evan. Jeez, I cannot articulate tonight. But he proposed in Barcelona. He went on the Call Her Daddy podcast and basically gushed. I'm saying gushed. She didn't gush. She just like gave a really sweet, cute explanation over it. And went into like how she never really ever wanted to marry, and she asked her what happened, and she's like, you know, Avon happened. And I was like, interesting. That's gonna be a separate topic of conversation, which is why I brought it up. But anywho, besides that, our queen of screams, Vera Farmiga, is now a queen of screams. So she is just released actually the Crying Room with her band the Yagas. And when I saw it, I was like, is it because of Baba Yaga, which is a Slavic folklore of like a witch in the forest? It's super cool. But anyway, yeah, I don't know, I just thought I would share that information, because why not open the 31st with some spooky tunes. Now that we are caught up with some of the latest, stay hydrated, my lovely hummingbirds. So, as I mentioned in the beginning of today's episode, the faultiness of miscommunication in the family setting. So, first and foremost, what is proper communication, my lovely hummingbirds? Well, according to Google AI, the exchange of information, ideas, and emotions in a way that is clear, concise, and compassionate. And according to Coursera, proper communication is when both the sender and receiver feel satisfied. I have my little about that, but that'll be on a separate episode. So, as you saw in the beginning, in the introduction, I am Coraline Jones, not Caroline, not Carolina, Coraline Jones. So, if you guys don't know what that is, it is from this gorgeous movie. It is one of my favorites. One of my favorite movies of all time. Like, actually, though, I'm obsessed. I have always been obsessed with this movie. My mom hates this movie. She knows it by heart. It is entirely my fault. You know how, like, when Frozen first came out and kids were like, oh my god, Frozen. That's me with Coraline. But I'm still obsessed with it. It's a problem. So, a little just background on the film and why I'm choosing the character of Coraline Jones for today's topic of conversation. So, in the film itself, Coraline and her parents move from Michigan to Oregon because they are moving essentially for work. They have to write about a book and do some gardening and do all this stuff, right? But obviously things are not as perfect as one would hope. So Coraline is seen as this very like rebellious girl because she don't want to be there. She wants to be in Michigan with her friends throwing snowballs, and she wants her parents to listen to her and pay attention. Now there is also, mind you, this is entirely based on a book by Neil Gaiman, where he was like this. I'm surprised they even published this book. He's been quoted as saying, because it's a dark read. It's not really a children's story. It involves like a family and everything, but I'm like, yeah, this is definitely horror. Anyway, so they move, and there's a lot of discontentment with the family. They're in the film, and this is specifically the film. We're not getting too much into the book. We're not getting at all into the book when it comes to today's episode. Just the movie, just what you see in the movie. But in the movie, the mom at a point mentions a car accident that happened, or an accident that happened, and Coraline keeps saying like it's not my fault, which to me, as a child of someone, it gives very much, she blames herself to some capacity for what happened, or at some point her parents might have lashed out for it, and it held that like deep-seated resentment towards them, towards the changes in their life. She is clearly a child that is lacking a whole lot of attention and care by her parents, because granted, they are busting their asses to give her the best, but to Coraline, the best would be their time and attention and affection and efforts and love. So, and the reason I say that is because, like, when you look at the iteration of the other mother, the Beldam, which is this creature that lives in a parallel universe that she finds because she goes through a crawl space in a door that she finds in the house. Anyway, the other mother for her basically is like feeding her and tucking her into bed at night and playing with her, and like her and the like dad, right, are like just giving her time and attention and affection. That's all she wants. And to hear her like, yes, we will do this once in a while, because every time she proposes something, the answer is always no, or there's a lack of enthusiasm, or just a like, you're totally in my way right now, just get out of my face type of energy. The whole moral of Coraline, though, as a whole in the story, right, like the whole shebang, is that the grass ain't always greener on the other side. It is greener where you water it. And sometimes getting everything we desire can actually be very detrimental. Sometimes those no's are a protection. In Coraline's case, they were wrong. They should pay attention to the baby. No, but it definitely shows how, like, in life in general, we live in a very gray scale, right? Not everything is always so black and white. Not everything is so, like, dead set one way all the time. And that's part of the reason why I am so fascinated with this film, because of that. Because it shows the different aspects. Like, some of the neighbors, it's like Mr. Bobinski, who used to have a mice circus, and then the two trapeze artists, and then there's Wybie, who his grandmother owns, the Pink Palace, which is the complex that her and her parents move into. And then we have the cat. The cat has no name, and it's so funny because I don't know why. I'm already channeling, but I thought Uppsalam, and it's not Uppsala like from Vikings, but Uppsalam, which is one of those pebbles in, oh my god, what is that book called? Why am I blanking out? It's literally somewhere over here. The Alchemist. Wow, that took me so long. So, what am I not alchemizing in my life, my lovely hummingbirds? Anywho, so in The Alchemist, he gets two pebbles, one white one black one, and he's like, oh, turn the pebbles and you will get your answer. And I think one of them is called Uppsalam. I don't know, I might be wrong about that. There's a correction here. But anywho, kept thinking about that. That's interesting. I'm already channeling. Sorry, y'all, my brain is like all over the place. So, the cat has no name. And the only time we hear him called anything besides "come here, cat," which is what Coraline calls him, the other mother just calls him Vermin. And he basically says that, like, cats don't get separated, essentially going in between worlds, because, like, they're not like humans. Again, a cat just basking in its superiority against us inferior peasants, but he basically is like Coraline's Jiminy Cricket in this, where he is her conscience to some degree. And when it comes to, like, proper communication in a family setting, so what I find so interesting about the film is, like, it doesn't exist. It goes beyond just, like, her and her mom definitely have, like, a miscommunication issue, but between her and her dad, like, it's just not there, period. To some degree, right? And so, while Coraline does love her parents and everything, and she has her moments because she's a teenager, I think she's a teenager, and, it's a big move, it's a big change, all this stuff, like, it also comes down to, like, this kid would disappear for hours from her parents' sight, and they were just like, oh, whatever, which is crazy to me. In the journey of life, love, and self-healing, my lovely hummingbirds, I've said it before on different episodes, but the grass is not greener on the other side. It's green where you water it. The reason, partially why I say that I disagree with, like, with proper communication, both parties will feel satisfied. Not always. I feel like there are situations where if one party is incorrect in the situation and the other party is not, and they're trying to, properly communicate that. When it comes to communication, it's a fine line, because if someone doesn't have the space to listen to you in the way they need to hear it, even, or the way that you have to say it, They simply will not listen to you. Sometimes people were never taught to listen, or how to say things, how to ask for things, how to have those like social cues of proper communication, because it's not something they ever learned at home, or it's not something that they got to see firsthand. As a millennial, right, as a person that has experienced all the shit that I have in life as well, I was not always the greatest at communication. Like, I wasn't. It's been a progression to learn how to articulate my thoughts and my emotions properly without having shit just boil over and explode, right? Just bubble, 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 pah, and then rage. But when it comes to journey of life, love, and self-healing, the reason proper communication is so important, and this goes a little into the spiritual aspect. Y'all ever seen that, like, when you speak to the universe, you have to be very specific, or the universe will do as it does and have it their way? And the universe, trust me, will always be more aggressive than you, my lovely hummingbirds. The thing is, in the process of learning how to say things properly, we are not only doing others a service with it, but also ourselves. Because the more that you start to properly communicate and say things from a space of understanding and care and love, whether it is for you or for the other person involved, you lend yourself the space to really pull back, and in moments where you're talking crazy to you and you're talking shit and you're saying all this self-deprecating bullshit, you can pull back and recognize, like, okay, now where did that come from? When it comes to the journey of life, love, and self-healing, 90% of it is awareness. I'm being only slightly dramatic with that. But the awareness of how we're saying things, why we're saying things, the impact those words can have. Oftentimes, the reason that a lot of us, especially millennials, did not learn, and it's not just because our Chiron is in Virgo, did not learn proper communication skills, is because it wasn't taught. Now, if you have, like, conditions that prohibit you from properly communicating in general, that's different. Like, this does not apply to you, my lovely hummingbirds, and I hope that you are okay, and just know that the best that you are doing is your best, and that is perfectly fine. But anywho, this is for my lovely hummingbirds that can do something about it. There comes a point in time in the journey of life, love, and self-healing where you have to realize that you have to unlearn a whole lot of shit that you learned because you were raised by people that were doing the best they could with what they knew about what was in front of them. And a lot of people, especially older generations, were not necessarily taught that. Like, my lovely hummingbirds, have you ever been in a situation where you have a family member, whether it is a brother, sister, mother, auntie, uncle, father, whomsoever is a very important figure in your life, tiptoe around a situation, around a question? There is a lack of decisiveness, a lack of direction in the words that are being spoken, because, and the thing is, something always stems from somewhere. Another little reminder we have to give ourselves, my lovely hummingbirds, something always stems from somewhere. There was a thing one of my besties said the other day, and I've heard it so many other times before, but when someone is loud, it's because they never felt heard or seen as a child. When someone is very boisterous, it's because they never felt seen or heard as a child. Things of that nature. And then when someone is very quiet, is because they tried to once speak up and were immediately shut down, or their feelings were invalidated, or what have you. But Why does proper communication matter to the journey of life, love, and self-healing, my lovely hummingbirds? Because how we say things to ourselves matters. Words do have power. And I don't mean like always external. Like, granted, yes, if you're dealing with healing some insecurities and all of that, people saying certain things can get under your skin. I mean more so the way we choose to actively speak to ourselves in a very serious way of like self-deprecation, saying shit like, oh my god, you don't matter, oh my god, no one's ever gonna love you, oh my god, look at you, worthless, oh my god, like all this bad shit, right? And then turning around and trying to manifest all this gorgeousness and trying to do better, but you keep hitting a wall of like, fuck, every time I try, something bad happens. Every time I try, it never goes my way. You know, even in that, instead of pulling back and pausing and being like, okay, what do I need to learn right now? What is this moment trying to teach me? The day you decide, my lovely hummingbirds, to actively communicate with yourself what you truly desire is the day you will truly move towards it. Because once you make that decision, no one can take that decision away from you. No one can stop you. Okay? I keep hearing my wallet sure can. My lovely hummingbirds. Money is energy too. Okay? And that is a not coffee. I keep saying coffee and conversation. Why am I channeling coffee and conversation? My lovely hummingbirds, I love you all so much. My fellow endo warriors, I love you all so much. Everything is gonna be okay. I pink promise. I do. It will be okay. But anywho, that's it. That's all I got. The reason why it matters is because if you don't communicate with yourself well, you don't start with yourself, you don't communicate with those immediately around you, it will lead to resentment. It'll lead to heartbreak. It'll lead to, I labeled it the faultiness of miscommunication, because when there is a miscommunication, it always becomes everybody else's fault. In Coraline, her parents blamed her for being the way that she was. She blamed her parents for being the way that they were and taking the actions. And all I think about now as an adult, I'm like, had everyone just sat down and talked to each other? Without it having to be a fucking fight or an issue, like, so much more would have been understood. But it comes with time. It comes with learning and unlearning and growing and going forward. And the more that like you practice those healthy communication skills in your family setting, not only is it going to build very strong bonds and relationships between not only parent and child, but also amongst mom and dad, mom and mom, dad and dad, guardian and guardian. When I say guardian and guardian, it reminds me of Guardians of the Galaxy. Anywho, and even amongst siblings, when you have that space of like, okay, do I have space for this, is a really good one too. Let me do a reframe, things like that, and learning how to slowly but surely be vocal, and also giving that space for others to vocalize. Now, of course, keep your boundaries in place and don't let people walk all over you, because that's not okay either. But one of the like biggest things I've seen of late is a lot of the older generations having issues of openly asking for something that they want. Remember, my lovely hummingbirds, in the journey of life, love, and self-healing, we don't know what everybody else is going through. Be mindful. Keep your head up. Keep going. Okay, definitely fucking keep going. And trust and believe that where you are now is where you are meant to be. And if you're like, it certainly don't feel like it, clear up that throat chakra, baby, and talk to God. And get real with you. about what it is that you desire out of life. Because if you don't believe that's what you deserve and want and will succeed in, nobody else is going to believe it either. Alright, my love, I heard they already don't. Yeah. So why are you letting yourself feed into that? Okay, I'm done. That's it for me for you for today. I love you all so much, my lovely hummingbirds. I'll catch you on the next one. And happy Halloween, happy spooky season. If you are seeing this, you know you are. What time is it? Yeah, you're totally already seeing it on the 31st, but I love y'all, and I'll catch y'all. I don't know why I did finger guns. Jeez. Alright, I'll catch y'all on the next one. Bye.